What is the truth behind Meghan's second series of her Netflix show? Has the King made another silent statement on Canada? Is Prince William making his feelings known on the Russia and Ukraine conflict? We've got another show packed with royal news this week. Welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin, and back this week is the Daily Mail's royal editor, Rebecca English, and fellow fans' favourite Daily Mail diary editor, Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. We are celebrating today something of quite the milestone. We have hit 400,000 subscribers to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel. Thank you so much to everybody who has listened to my nagging to do just that. I love you all. But you know me, I don't want to stop there. If you don't already, come and join us and you'll never miss another episode of your favourite royal show. Now, playing straight after this is a special Q&A episode we put out earlier this week where Rebecca and Richard answer our viewers' excellent royal questions. We had a lot of fun making that and I hope that you will enjoy watching it. But let's start with today's news. Let's get to the Princess of Wales, who looked resplendent in red as she was back for her first Commonwealth Day service in 2 years. Now, Rebecca, tell us about that, and also for those who don't know, can you explain that service a little bit to us?
Yeah, why don't I explain the Commonwealth Day service? Obviously, it's the annual day where all of the 56 member states of the family of nations around the world mark the importance of the Commonwealth still, and here we have a big service at Westminster Abbey, and this is quite a three-line whip in the royal family. It's a big deal for them. Last year, unfortunately, of course, the Princess of Wales and the King himself couldn't attend because they obviously were both going through respective cancer treatments, although actually I don't think we did know actually in the Princess's case at the time.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
So it was the first time they'd been for 2 years, so a really big event, and she absolutely knocked it out the ballpark, turned up in this amazing Catherine Walker red coat, which we have seen before, but is still absolutely amazing, with a Gina Forster hat. And I think, although obviously everyone was pleased to see the King, all eyes were on her.
It was a pretty dazzling colour. And also, William and Catherine actually looked quite affectionate.
Yeah, they both looked really pleased to be there, and there's a lovely picture of them actually in the surface kind of chatting away and giggling together, because I was there at Westminster Abbey in the congregation, and it was an amazing service. You know, you had everything from incredible classical performers, you had readings, you had Joan Armour trading, and I don't know if we're ever able to get this clip, but she played her big hit Love and Affection, and I actually saw Princess Anne like swaying in her seat like this with her eyes closed.
I hope there is footage of that, because I'm struggling to visualise that.
Well, I looked at the person next to me and went, did I just see what? And they looked at me with a big grin on their face and went, yeah, she absolutely did.
Well, it's probably one of her favourites, isn't it? I think it was 1976, so it's probably, you know, when she was a
Look at
teenager.
you, music stato, yeah,
Exactly.
So it was great.
Oh, now, speaking of that show stopping red, Richard, there's been some chat of people suggesting that particularly the hat and the colour was a nod of support to Canada from Catherine. Do you read into that at all?
Well, royal support for Canada is very much in the news because of tensions with Donald Trump and the claims he's made, whether he's joking or not.
Don't laugh when you say that. The Canadians don't like it.
No, and the Canadians have been obviously taking it very seriously. We know that from their Prime Minister who met the King. And we know that the royals do like to be very symbolic with what they wear, particularly the women. You know, on one of her 3 tours of Canada, Catherine made a point of wearing, you know, Canadian-made outfits. She would often use the colours of the flag. So turning up at Commonwealth Day service like that, all in red, lots of people did think she was making a statement. Now, look, to be honest, we'll never know. I think if you ask people at the palace, they'll probably say no, you know, they don't want to stir things up. But
we know the royals do like to, you know, have coded messages in their clothing.
Yeah, and we know that they love Canada, and we know how much Catherine and William enjoyed their tours, and no doubt there'll be another one before too long.
Now, speaking of supporting Canada, Rebecca, the King hosted some more prominent Canadians this week.
Yeah, on Wednesday he had 2 members of the Canadian Parliament, the Black Rod and the Speaker of the Senate, I believe. I think they have a very kind of quite similar parliamentary system to the UK. We have a Black Rod character here as well. And they were presenting him with a new piece of regalia, which the engagement was a long time.
He does need some more regalia. What was it?
Well, it was to mark the change of reign, so he was going to get his own piece of regalia from them. There was one belonging to Queen Elizabeth II. But interestingly, although this engagement was a long time in the planning and it is genuinely a coincidence it happened this week, I was led to understand don't underestimate the significance of it, because he invited the 2 officials to stay with him at Buckingham Palace for half an hour afterwards. And while Buckingham Palace would never go into details of private audiences, it was made clear, very, very clear to me, that they discussed matters of national and international importance to the Canadian people at the time, and there was no suggestion that what was going on with the United States wasn't going to be amongst those topics of conversation. I think, as I said to you on the programme the other week, you know, the royal family, especially the King as a constitutional monarch, can't really come out swinging verbally, but it was made very clear to me he can show his support in deed, if not word.
And he can ask his daughter-in-law to wear their national colours.
Do you think that might have been what happened?
Who knows?
I mean,
who knows?
Presumably he will be keeping very well informed about this growing row between America and Canada.
Absolutely. I mean, he's Canada's head of state, so although he can't, there are a lot of things he's not allowed to speak about publicly as a constitutional monarch, it doesn't mean he doesn't know about them, and it doesn't mean he's not concerned about them. And as I said to you guys the other week, you know, I know a realm visit to Canada is top of the list of the things he wants to do at the moment. So.
And he's not the only royal with a bit of a proximity to global situations. Apparently Richard William is planning a royal tour, not unclose to the Ukraine.
Yes, this is a military visit. Prince William is Colonel-in-Chief of the Mercia Regiment, and he's going to be visiting Estonia, which is really on the front line in the sense that it used to be a Soviet state, and it's been widely reported that, you know, Vladimir Putin would like to sort of restore the old Soviet Union, and they have a border of about 180 miles with Russia. So they really are on the front line, and they feel terribly nervous, and William is going there to see how they're strengthening forces on that border. And remember that Estonia is a NATO country, so we, the French, the Germans and the USA are, you know, legally obliged to step in if the Russians were to try anything and set a foot in Estonia. So it's, you know, it's a big live issue.
It does seem, Rebecca, like quite a statement. What are those around William saying about this trip?
Well, just to say, by the way, guys, next week I have to leave you to fight it out yourselves, because I will be in Estonia with him next week.
Okay.
So I'm going out there. And Richard's absolutely right. It's a 183-mile border with Russia. And it's, you know, it's not the biggest country, so it is one that is vulnerable. And there is this a rolling NATO programme called Operation Calbrit, and Britain plays a big part of that. And the Mercians, of which William is Colonel-in-Chief of, it's their turn to basically provide men and troops and equipments as part of this kind of wider NATO exercise. But Richard's right, it's the timing is very, very interesting. I mean, obviously it's been stressed to me that it just so happens that it is the Mercians' turn now, but they would have had to think very carefully internally, do we want to be sending a member of the royal family out so close to the dividing line with Russia at this time? And I think they feel it's very important for William to show his backing to them.
And as we keep seeing, a lot can happen in a week in politics at the moment.
I mean, gosh, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Now, on a lighter note about William, he was seen here earlier this week. Let's have a look. William the referee, Rebecca? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so he was up in the Midlands in his role as president of the FA, the Football Association, and they're running a referee course to include more diversity. So he got up there and he was actually out on the pitch. He had his whistle, he had his flag, but actually I think one of the loveliest moments was the walkabout he did afterwards, and there was a lady that really caught his eye with bright red hair, and he did a selfie with her, and actually very sweetly, she was so excited she wasn't pressing the button on her camera right. And he actually took it off her and went, no, this is the one you need to do. So she would get her proper picture. And 10 years ago, I don't think we would have seen that, but he seems much more comfortable in his own skin doing things like that.
I suspect he's in a very good mood at the moment, because William's a keen supporter of Aston Villa, who've just reached the quarter-finals of the Champions League. So
I literally don't know what you just said.
If you watch William at the matches, he really gets excited. So I think he'll be in a very jolly mood.
He was
this
watching
week.
it last night. There's some great pictures of him in the crowds. And actually, on the way to that engagement in the Midlands, the Palace told us that he did a quick stop off at the Aston Villa training ground, because it's not too far away, to wish the team good luck. So there are some perks to the job as well.
Yeah, but what about the rugby? Because I hear that the Walesers might actually need a referee in-house to adjudicate between who supports who.
Yeah, this is really awkward. So this weekend is a big deal, because it's the final weekend of the Six Nations rugby tournament, and Catherine is patron of England rugby, and as Prince William of Wales, Prince of Wales, he is patron of Welsh rugby.
Okay.
So they're playing together, they're playing against each other this weekend in an important match. And then there's also the question of who do their children support? I think William's joked about it and said it's not clear, because Prince George has been to matches with William before, but who does he support? Does he go with mum's team, dad's team?
See, in my house, we were just told who to support in what in Australia is rugby league.
Well,
Do you think
poor
it's a similar
George,
thing there?
he might have his parents telling him to support different teams.
Well, I can actually tell you something that I don't think is well known, but hopefully I think it will be by the time the programme airs, but they're actually going to watch the rugby, William and Kate.
The problem with that, it's going to be like one of these Taylor Swift going to her in American football matches. There'll be more cameras looking at William and Catherine than there will be on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be looking at the rugby. No offence. Good luck to everyone.
But I'm told, by the way, not to expect the children, so it'll just be mum and dad fighting it out in the stands.
Yeah.
But what about you, Richard? Sticking with Catherine, you've got quite a fascinating story in your newsletter this week about an encounter you had with her years ago.
It's just a bit of sort of reminiscing, a bit of nostalgia, really. It was just seeing Catherine at the Commonwealth Day service this week, and really sort of commanding presence. She sort of dominated media coverage the next day. It just made me think back to the first time I met her, but it's a long time ago. And it's during her split, her breakup with William. And I don't think it was a coincidence, but at that time she started going out quite a lot and maybe, sort of making him jealous.
Yeah.
But it was at a party, and we had a chat, and her sister was there. But what really came across was her sort of diplomacy and how she managed that royal thing of being kind of talking to you. She could probably talk all evening without saying too much. And I remember thinking then, even if she's not in the royal family now, she'd be perfect for it.
And was she aware that you were a diary columnist?
Yeah, she was. I was there for a different newspaper at the time.
Yeah.
But I think she was actually getting quite a hard time, because she was during her split, and there was Tara Palmer-Tomkinson there, who's unfortunately now dead, but she was sort of quizzing her about William and what was happening. Yeah. So it was all a bit awkward. But
were you part of that conversation?
Yes.
Or were you earwigging?
No, I was there. Yeah, but
that does sound like Tara just to lamp in with what's going on.
Yeah.
The problem is, even if they talk to you once, then in the future they'll make a point of avoiding you. So.
Well, you can read all about that on Mail Plus, and we'll put a link to that and other interesting royal articles from the week in the description below. But let's now hear some of your thoughts. We'll go back to the topic of Canada with our first comment. There were lots of you who wrote in from both sides of the border, sharing your frank and forthright thoughts. Thank you for that. Much of the argument was about whether or not President Trump was joking about annexing Canada. Now, we're a royal show. We don't want to get into geopolitics or tariffs. I don't understand enough about all of that. But there was one question that came in that we thought worth answering. Prairie Girl asks, as King Charles can only act on advice from his government, whether it's the government of Canada or the government of the United Kingdom, if the advice from either government contradicts or is in conflict with each other, does the government's advice from the United Kingdom take precedence? Given King Charles' seemingly good personal relationship with President Trump, I feel that it has been a missed opportunity from the Canadian government to not request King Charles to host President Donald Trump on behalf of Canada, as the UK government has done with the second state visit invite. Wow, that's a complex one. Anyone got any thoughts on that?
Well, it is a really good question. I mean, I don't, and it's important to stress actually that he is head of state and monarch in Canada. and that in a totally independent capacity for his role as head of state and monarch here. So no, one doesn't take precedence over the other, but obviously our countries are very close. Buckingham Palace officials are always talking to Canadian officials. So the honest answer is, it might sound a bit of a cop-out, but I don't think it would ever get to the point we're at loggerheads. But because obviously the head, he is living in the UK, obviously he has the governor out there, the Governor General, and that is his embodiment in the country. So the likelihood is that if there was any kind of state visit by President Trump, that would actually be held by the governor in Canada rather than the King.
Right, okay, hope that clears that one up. Now, Joanne Hutchings had this to say about Meghan Markle's new show. Sorry, Meghan Sussex's new show, and the question of titles. As an American female who had a professional career starting in the 80s and was also a wife and mother, none of us would ever have time or consider doing the things she performed on her show. Also, now that she wants to go by Sussex, it's time to remove the titles, which we don't recognise in the US, as it misrepresents her standing in England since she doesn't represent Sussex. While it's been discussed she would then be able to go by, I think this is correct, Princess Harry, believe me, there would be no greater insult to her than to have to be seen as Princess Harry. I know that King Charles doesn't want to embarrass them, but how does that compare to how they are embarrassing the monarchy? It's time the King puts the monarchy ahead of his son, just as his mother Queen Elizabeth would put the monarchy first. Strong view there. Now let's hear some comments from our Q&A episode. Now Christina says, this is my very favourite episode ever. Well, thank you. It is more about history rather than current goings on, and I love history. Thank you so much. Now on that show we answered whether or not Michael and Carol Middleton would ever bow to their daughter Catherine. If you want to know the answer, make sure you stick around and watch the show, which will be playing straight after this. Nonna Sibilia had this to say on that subject. Well, William and Catherine bow and curtsy to Charles. Interesting point. So keep those questions coming in and we'll answer some more again soon. And generally keep the comments coming in. We love to read them. Keep them civil, please. If we can keep things polite on here. If I can be nice to Richard, you can be nice to anyone. I'm sure you can in the comments section too. So thank you. So now let's get back to the panel. And social media was a buzz with the news that despite the really quite terrible reviews, the Netflix show With Love, Meghan would be returning for a second series. But is there more to this than meets the eye? I suspect that you have an answer, Richard.
Well, yes, there is. I think essentially it's a sort of PR stunt that Meghan went straight on. She's becoming very prolific on Instagram now, and she recorded a story saying, "Ray, you know, we're going to have a second series that will be available." But let's be clear, what happened here is they hired a location, they spent money on a house, a mansion where this was filmed, and they filmed enough material for 2 series at the same time. So it was done and dusted, and Netflix will release the second series in the autumn. But I think they were always going to do that. I mean, it did make me wonder, I mean, how bad would the reception have had to be for the first series for Netflix not to broadcast a second?
Well, they wouldn't. I don't think they'd ever really not broadcast something when they'd already spent the money on it.
Exactly, they spent the money on it, and crucially, the thing to remember is that Netflix have a financial interest in Meghan's lifestyle company. Must get the name right. It was American Riviera Orchard. It is now As Ever. And as ever, they will make money from it if people buy the jams and the sprinkly flowers or whatever. So from Netflix's point of view, a second series, more promotion, you know, would help make some money, and also maybe give them more of a return on the huge amount of money which we think they've already paid Harry and Meghan. I'm
fascinated by it. We keep talking about this As Ever brand under whatever name it currently has. There's still nothing on sale, is there?
No, in fact, their website just says spring 2025. So,
come on.
I thought we were in the spring, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah, allegedly.
So I think it's imminent, but I mean they've got the items up there now, not with prices, I have to say, but it does include, you know, jam in special boxes. Yes, those sprinkled edible flowers.
I mean, it just seems crackers not to have it
mix.
available at the same time that you're watching it all on the show.
Exactly, that's what I said on the programme the other day. You'd surely get more value out of it if people watching go, "Oh, I quite fancy that, let's click on the link and do it."
So do you think that maybe there is a sort of a strategy here that the second series not out till autumn, so maybe there's more time for Meghan to bed in as, you know, a cooking and lifestyle influencer? and then they can sell more products? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that the trouble is because they had so many problems with American Riviera Orchard, they've had to really, as we say in the UK, turn on the sixpence again and try and come out with a new idea, and they just haven't had time, I would have thought, to get the packaging, the design, all of that together. And don't forget, we've got one more thing to come from her between now and the autumn, which is in the spring we're going to have her new podcast series.
Oh, not the same podcast.
The torment never ends. I'll have to listen to that as well, will I?
All we know is she signed up with this small female-led firm,
right,
Lemonada.
Yeah.
And when she gave an interview to People magazine in advance of the recent Netflix series, she said in that would be coming out this spring as well. So it's going to be a lot of Meghan Sussex related.
I think what we will see as well is a lot more promotion of Meghan on the lifestyle front. So she's obviously enjoying having this Instagram account, and we'll see loads. I mean, she's already sort of highlighting how viewers are trying to make their own, special fruit displays and this type of thing. So I think we'll see lots of that to build up her as the new, lifestyle guru before we have to sit down and watch that second series in the autumn.
Do you have your rainbow fruit salad for breakfast?
I think I might
today?
book a holiday for that period so I can avoid.
No, because then you'll leave me to watch it on my own, Richard, and I need some company.
You love it. You love it.
Well, I still haven't made a rainbow, fruit rainbow yet or anything like that. So.
I have made a few sandwiches since then, but I forgot to sprinkle anything on top.
So you're both such a disappointment.
I know.
It's terrible. But Richard, there was a piece in Mail Online that suggested that they were a little bit rattled at Netflix by the reviews of the show.
Yes, I mean, this was just saying that insider figures, there was no one quoted on the record, but it was saying that at Netflix they have been quite shocked and disappointed by the reception to the first series, in the sense of, they might always expect a few bad reviews in Britain. They think, we've got some agenda against her or something. But what they might not have expected is publications like Variety or Hollywood Reporter also to be giving very bad reviews to the show. And I mean, it's interesting to say, because it's hard. It's not like YouTube where you can sort of see how many views something gets. With Netflix, you're never quite clear whether something's popular or not.
Yeah.
So, it's debatable how successful it's been. And Netflix will have the figures for, how long are people watching, how many episodes are they watching. So, maybe more will emerge about that. But certainly I think according to this account, they have been surprised at how bad the reception has been.
Well, I'm just going to provide a little bit of balance in that I have read a few just personal blogs and online things. People who like it really like it. So, a lot of people have described it as something soothing in our troubled times.
Well, that's what I said when we reviewed the programme. I said that basically if you like Meghan and spending time with her, you'll enjoy this. And if you don't, then avoid like the plague.
Well, I saw some figures the other day, and I don't know how legitimate they are, but they were suggesting it attracted, I think, about half a million viewers, but that compared to 2.1 million for the Harry and Meghan documentary.
Right.
So it was a fraction of what they had previously achieved with their only one successful product for Netflix.
God, Netflix would do much better if it just signed up Palace Confidential. Oh, sorry, I'm not meant to say that, but yeah.
It's a thought. Now, one stinker of a review came from an actual doctor on the Daily Mail's staff, the psychiatrist Dr. Max Pemberton, writing for the Mail this week. He called Meghan's extravagant children's party spread competitive and performative parenting, and he said every episode smacked of the kind of shallow, toxic positivity we see on Instagram, that the whole thing felt like mean girl trolling. Gosh, that's a strong set of words, isn't it, Richard?
It is. Max Pemberton's always worth reading. And, he's making the point that Instagram, a lot of us, probably me included, you try and sort of show your best self, don't you? And it's become very, aspiration might be people, boasting about this, that or the other. And, for women now who are expected to, look great, everything's got to be perfect. And here they are with this lifestyle show where, even for a blooming children's party, they've got to be making perfect sandwiches sprinkled with flowers. It's like another pressure on working mothers, isn't it? I
don't know. I would never feel pressured by a lifestyle show, would you?
I wouldn't, but then I know people who probably would feel
really?
They had to. And actually, I have to say, Dr. Mac, I would say this, I know, working for the Mail, but genuinely, Dr. Mac Pemberton's columns are brilliant. And I properly read that, not even knowing we were discussing on the show from start to finish. There's some wise words in there, I have to say. It's definitely worth a read.
And we know how social media has changed people's attitudes to looks and stuff. You know, they've got to look great, they've got to look perfect, that type of thing. So you can imagine doing the same in terms of sort of lifestyle.
I wonder if you look at that, you know, the beautiful house, the rolling gardens with your own produce, do you think that it's a glimpse into why the royal family aren't so keen to flaunt the luxurious side of their lifestyle?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the trouble is, it's quite difficult. It's quite a difficult issue for the royal family to navigate because they do have considerably nice houses than the rest of us, which is why I think it was so enchanting when we got that glimpse of, you know, the Queen's life at Buckingham Palace.
Well, according to Harry, Frogmore's a dump, isn't it? So
the fact that she'd have her you know, Tupperware pops of breakfast cereals and stuff, and it kind of made us feel, gosh, she's probably like me or my mum or my nan. So it's quite difficult, but then they do wear very you know, expensive clothes and have wonderful jewellery. I mean,
we did see inside Princess Anne's house once, didn't we?
Yeah, and hers is kind of what I would call a normal, pretty chaotic country house. You're talking about kind of putting things online. I mean, the one thing as I said the other week, I'd slightly lost the will to live with this series after the whole issue about making ice cubes. And just for a joke, I posted on my social media the one time I tried to make cakes for the school bake sale, and basically, I don't know how to put this politely, but they ended up looking like a teddy bear was, you know, going to the toilet on my cake.
Right.
You have to see it to know.
To be honest, that's the kind of thing that would really excite children. They would quite like
I'm afraid I think I might have bought one from the local supermarket for those type of sales.
And that's, for me as a parent, that's what parenting about, is trying your best and trying to help out, but knowing actually it's probably not really going to be very perfect. After all, that said, my cakes did sell out because, as one of the kids said to me, no one's ever bought a cake to a bake sale that looks like a bear's doing a poo on it. So.
But remember that one of Meghan's kind of slogans from her series is, you know, love is in the details. And really, is it? I mean, I don't think it doesn't show you're any more loving if you know, spend ages over your fancy party.
Well, it's interesting. I want to remind you of a story you ran in your column this week, quite amusing, a former royal chef's view on Meghan's show. He didn't really pull any punches, did he?
No, this was Richard Corrigan, who's a celebrated chef and has cooked for the royal family, and he, not to put too fine a point on it, hated the series. He watched a bit and he just thought it was so pretentious. But I think he's a very down-to-earth Irishman, and he didn't like the sort of the California cool, and I almost don't like saying that because I know a lot of people from California just say that is not us, that's not California. But the image put across in this programme he found objectionable. But he also just, I mean, I think he's just annoyed with Harry and Meghan quite a bit. He called it kind of cheap TV, and he thinks that he described them as being a burden on King Charles, because instead of just going away and doing their own thing or being private, they're just sort of doing all this stuff to get publicity, and that he clearly is not a fan.
Oh my gosh, let's get Richard Corrigan on the show.
I was going to say, interesting, I noticed overnight there was an article in the New York Post about a chef that had also, I think maybe a US-based chef, that had been critical of the programme, and he was saying that he'd got death threats as a result of being critical of it. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Richard Corrigan, it was a different chef, but you know, he said he was so taken aback by the reaction of the fans, of the Sussex fans.
Let's not all lose our minds over a cooking show.
I mean, bit of perspective, people.
Should we move on? Because I want to have a quick word about Cheltenham. Rebecca, for those who don't know about us, tell us what Cheltenham is and which royals were there.
It's a 4-day horse meet in the UK, and it kind of, I thought, although it's quite cold in the UK at the moment, it does kind of herald the start of the spring sporting season. And it's in Gloucestershire, and it attracts people for miles around, and the royals love it. So we saw yesterday Queen Camilla there. She was handing out a prize, but she was also there with her family, and there were great pictures of them, and her ex-husband, and there were pictures laughing and joking. There's a particularly great picture I saw of Zara Tindall with Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and they were there with their partners, and everyone was wearing kind of matching outfits with a bit of burgundy in it. So I don't know if they planned it, but they just looked, they were smiling for the camera. And there was so much camaraderie in this picture, so much happiness. You could see how close they were still as cousins. I thought it was lovely.
That's really nice. Now we'll stick with some fun royal engagements now. And here is the King, who showed that he might be pretty useful in an emergency.
Yeah, off you go. Lovely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
Rebecca, what was going on?
So he was going to the Royal College of Nursing to mark the 1,000th nurse from a cadet scheme that he'd recommended when he was Prince of Wales. But he was invited to do some CPR on one of these, do they call them mannequin? I don't know what they call them in medical terms. And let's just say he was a very enthusiastic with his pumping. I mean,
Didn't break any ribs.
Well, I did see someone say online, and said if he'd done that in real life, he would have definitely broken a few ribs. But I love the fact, and he was kind of getting the giggles while he was doing it. But he said that he has learnt CPR over the years because he was obviously serving in the military and other things. But it was a good reminder of him as to how to do it, or not how to do it.
It is nice, though, isn't it, Richard, that he's the king now. You know, you don't have to be serious all the time. He can still do a fun engagement.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always loved about King Charles and Camilla is their ability to have a laugh. So they've often sort of ended up in the papers because of wearing funny hats or basically not being afraid to look a bit silly or have a laugh. And that's continued into their reign. So yeah, they haven't become all serious. You know, I'm the monarch. He is still able to laugh and joke a bit, which I think, I mean, it has to be said, it's quite different probably from his mother. She was more serious in that way. I mean, you definitely wouldn't have seen her doing this, for example.
Yeah.
You know, so it was quite different. But I think natural in his case, because he's established that while being Prince of Wales. It would almost be a bit odd if he suddenly became very pompous and different.
Well, and you know, more on that, because he had another fun one when he made a surprising revelation in this video. Let's have a look.
Kylie Minogue came to St James's Palace to perform this song in 2012. In advance of the Diamond Jubilee visit to Australia. We had a large reception for Australians in the United Kingdom, and as Kylie is an ambassador for my now King's Trust, she very generously agreed to come and perform. The song is The Locomotion, and this is music for dancing. Again, it has that infectious energy which makes it, I find, incredibly hard to sit still.
Rebecca, what was this?
So this was Apple Music and a link up to Buckingham Palace and Apple Music.
I was so surprised.
To mark Commonwealth Day, and they suggested to him, would you like to share your playlist of favourite Commonwealth songs for us to mark the occasion? And he thought this was a great idea. And he also said, well, why don't you come to Buckingham Palace and we'll do, you know, a video of me talking through the playlist as I'm playing the songs. And they'd already trailed it a little bit, and we were told that, you know, the Australian contribution to this was going to be Kylie Minogue.
But was that his choice or Australia's
choice? No,
very
much. I was at a big launch at Apple on Friday for this, and I asked both Apple and Buckingham Palace, and no, this was very much his playlist. And he remembered when Kylie came to one of his Prince's Trust events, and she did the locomotion. He was just saying, like, you cannot not dance to that. But there were some other great choices on it. There was Beyonce, Crazy in Love, and again, that was his choice, because he remembers her singing.
Do you think he's had a bit of a twerk to that in his time?
Well, he said he remembered her coming to play it at another Prince's Trust. I mean, obviously Beyonce wasn't a strictly Commonwealth thing, but he did say he snuck a couple of his favourite choices in there, including Diana Ross Upside Down, which was his top of his playlist.
Call me a cynic, but I do think he's had a bit of help with this list. I mean,
don't think
come on, if you look at it, there's like there's one from Ghana where it's a pop singer from there, and you know, is he really familiar with the pop music of Ghana?
I think you underestimate our king's
I was with him in Ghana when he went to Ghana. So yeah, look, I'm sure there's been on some of the Commonwealth countries.
He's taken advice.
They've taken advice as they do.
We know he likes to dance, don't we?
I was surprised there was nothing from the 3 Degrees. He used to be, he was very friendly with Sheila Ferguson, and there's some great images. I don't know if they can dig them out for this programme of him dancing on stage with the 3 Degrees.
Yes, I remember.
He's got some moves, the King. I have to say, I've seen him dance quite a few times over the years, and there's a great clip of him years ago being a DJ going, dig that crazy rhythm.
Oh, dig that crazy rhythm. Really insane. Right.
So interesting, because obviously for the viewers who don't know, we have an iconic radio show here called Desert Island Discs, where it's basically that,
yes,
isn't it?
Is
where you
Discs,
sort of like you ask people to choose the tracks from their lives. But I can't imagine them ever getting a yes to this kind of a format, and yet and then here he appeared.
I think the thing is they're quite careful about what they do, but you know, I think nowadays Buckingham Palace is definitely got much more an eye on social media and appealing to a broader audience, and he's actually got, if you listen to what the whole programme, and I think you can download it for free for Apple Music for a while, otherwise it's for subscribers. He's got a beautiful melodious voice on radio. I mean, genuinely a voice for radio, and I think it will appeal to a great deal of people.
Well, check that out, everybody. Now, Rebecca, I know I like to tease you about being Queen Camilla's very best friend, just inseparable, you two, but it seems like you might have a rival for her affections in one Victoria Beckham. They were hanging out again.
Yep, I was at Buckingham Palace on Tuesday.
Were you there to go, how long has this been going on?
She is president of a brilliant organisation called Women of the World, WOW, and it's just this amazing global female movement. I think they're in 70 odd countries, and it's just supporting women. And she's built up a great network, and a lot of the women at this palace function to mark 15 years of WOW were people who you wouldn't recognise. They were in, working in fields like, domestic violence, gender equality, but they obviously had some famous faces. And actually, I didn't know till I got there that Victoria Beckham was going to be there, and she walked in and we're like, oh, didn't expect that. There was a great moment, because I was very close to them, you could hear the Queen saying, because how did you enjoy Highgrove the other week? Because obviously David and Victoria were at their Highgrove Italian dinner. And Camilla was going, wasn't the food amazing? And I heard Victoria go, and the wine. And they had a quite nice little chinwag together. And there were lots of other famous faces. Ruth Jones is a very popular actress and writer in the UK, Penny Lancaster. And there was just Charlotte Tilbury was there, and there was a great moment where Queen Camilla and Charlotte Tilbury, who clearly know each other very well socially, were kind of greeting each other, and there was just a real kind of wonderful kind of fabulous female energy about the place. And I just, again, talking about changes in reign, I don't think you would have seen that with Queen Elizabeth. She had lots of functions there, but there was a definite energy to it. And what was really apparent was they were all incredibly grateful for the way that Queen Camilla has supported them over the years.
Why have you got an impish look on your face?
What are you going to say, Richard? Now you're going to regret it.
I didn't have anything to say.
Oh, listen up, everybody. That fanfare, you know what that means. It's time to celebrate a royal unsung hero. Now, Richard, it's been a certain prince's birthday, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's certainly not an unsung hero on this programme, I have to say. I mean, I think more widely he is perhaps, but it's Prince Edward. So Monday was not only Commonwealth Day, but it was also Prince Edward's birthday.
Happy birthday, Prince Edward.
Yeah, not a landmark one. He was 61. Viewers might remember a beautiful speech which his wife Sophie gave when he turned 60 last year. Really sort of heartfelt dedication to him. And Edward had a lovely present on his birthday, which is he was made patron of the Royal Tennis Court at Hampton Court Palace. Now, viewers might not know, but he is a devotee of an unusual sport, which is real tennis, which is the older form of tennis, which precedes lawn tennis, and he loves it. He's played at all different courts.
Real tennis?
Yeah, I couldn't...
Dates back to Tudor times.
Yeah, I couldn't explain the differences from lawn tennis, but it's an older form.
Okay.
And he's played it all his adult life, really, and all at different courts around the world.
That sounds quite nerdy.
So anyway, he's patron of the court at Hampton Court Palace, and which is well worth a visit. Anytime visitors come.
Well done, Prince Edward. Now, Rebecca, his daughter was also in the news this week.
Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor. Yep, there were some fantastic pictures of her in various amateur dramatic productions at St Andrews University. And I just think they're very heartwarming. I think they show what a kind of lovely, confident but unaffected young woman there. She's not there as Lady Louise, she's just Louise Mountbatten Windsor. And it's
Just Louise Mountbatten Windsor.
I mean, yeah, there
Very,
is a
very humble.
double-barreled,
Yeah.
but yeah. But it just showed you how, you know, happy and how much she was enjoying her life. And I think it goes back to what we've discussed a lot on this programme, is how brilliant Edward and Sophie have been as parents in bringing their children up to respect that important side of their life, the fact that they are the grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth and obviously, you know, the nieces and nephews of the King, but also to enjoy their youth while
Just
they can.
wear it lightly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's a perfect example of that.
Excellent. Well, she's also an unsung hero then. Should we say that?
Absolutely. I'll have that.
Indeed. Well, to mark the return of the Commonwealth Day service, we thought we'd look back at some memorable photographs from that special event over the years. Some wonderful images there. Now make sure you check out our special royal question and answer session. Thanks to my guests Richard and Rebecca, and as thanks to you always for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.